Hi, it's time for Street Talk, your voice and your views on the issues in the news. A historic ruling in Pakistan has reinstated the country's Chief Justice, even though President Pervez Musharraf fired him 4 months ago. The decision by the Supreme Court allowing Iftekhar Mohammed Chaudry to return to work was not challenged by the President. But the case has been a huge political impact in Pakistan, with Mr. Chaudry becoming figurehead of opposition movements to General Musharraf. After 4 months of unrest, the court rejected all allegations of misconduct and corruption and said his suspension last March was illegal. The outcome is seen as a major blow to the president, especially as this is the first time that the judiciary has given such a verdict against a military ruler. Khalid in Oman doesn't believe President Musharraf is the right leader for the South Asian nuclear power anyway. The decision is a positive step towards reinstating the rule of law in Pakistan. Despite the fact that President Musharraf has the right to hire and fire justices, a volatile country like Pakistan should not be ruled by a tyrant. Garba and Kano in Nigeria is even more critical of the general's reign. President Musharraf will continue to fail not only as a result of his shameful attempt to muzzle the judiciary, but for his desecration of the sanctity of the Red Mosque and his blind collaboration with the West in the unjust war against the Taliban in Afghanistan. Tariq in Delhi doesn't understand why some are celebrating the court's ruling. This is a disaster for Pakistan and the region. President Musharraf has brought stability to the country and has stood up against extremist elements. People need to ask themselves, what is the alternative to Musharraf? Would they rather have corrupt leaders and extremists running the country? Now, would you talk to a robot about your illnesses or aches and pains? You may have no choice if the medical world starts pushing to use the robo-doc, who's doing the rounds at a hospital in Maryland here in the USA. Well, no need to panic just yet. RoboDoc is controlled remotely and allows doctors to make virtual consultations when they are miles from the hospital. Doctors are able to remain in their office while guiding the joystick-controlled robot into the rooms of their patients. The machine is outfitted with cameras and a screen and microphone, which allows doctors to communicate with patients, even if they're in another country. A chart review study of 376 of the doctor's patients found that the 92 patients who had additional robotic visits had shorter hospital stays. Ildiko in Hungary believes patients need to have a more personal experience. I wouldn't be willing to have a robo-doc take care of me. Robots don't have a soul and spirit, and people could be sensitive to this, especially when they get struck with an illness or a disease. Zelina in New Zealand is very uncomfortable with the idea and writes, "Having watched Terminator 3 this afternoon, I really don't think I want to see some machine pull up beside my bed. It would just give me the creeps." Now, if you've ever forgotten to water your plants, there will soon be no excuse. Botanicals, a New York-based startup founded by a group of New York University graduates, says it has created a technology that allows plants to call their owners when they need water. The creators have tried to make each plant voice match the plant type. So a Scottish moss, for instance, has a Scottish accent. Sensor probes are inserted into the soil to measure its moisture level. If the plant's too dry, the system, through a microchip located on the plant, decides to make a phone call to the owner. Let's listen to a sample.
Hey, this is the Scotch moss plant number 11. I'm desperately in need of water.
The creators deliberately decided on phone calls instead of text messages or emails to contact plant owners because they believe it's more personal and human. Now, one place your plants are not likely to be calling you is prison. Mind you, you might be too busy dancing to answer your mobile. A prison in the Philippines is taking rehabilitation and recreation to a new level. Check out 1,500 inmates dressed in orange dancing to Michael Jackson's Thriller. If they're in prison, shouldn't they be dancing to Michael Jackson's I'm Bad? That's it until next time. Do keep sending in your questions and comments and point us to anything interesting or amusing for Street Talk. Remember, what you see here isn't necessarily the view of Al Jazeera, and some of the content's been edited, but for time and space reasons only. And that's the talk on the street.